All right, who you're looking at right now is Doug Gilliam and Michael
Freyta.
Freyta. Okay, I want to make sure I got that right, and let me do a couple little things here and get some things situated. I got behind myself. That's a bad thing, and and here we go. One more little thing here. Push it over here. All right. And you've seen our guest. Our guest, like I said, is Doug Gilliam and Michael Freyta. And and they're going to be talking to you some experience about their service. And thank you both for your services. And they're going to tell you a little about some experiences and how they got to get into their branches, the Army and the Navy. And this is Memorial Day. We had a good service this morning in Union, downtown. And so we thought it'd be most appropriate to bring these guys in and let them tell you about some of their experience. And with their experience, you're going to really enjoy some of the things that they're going to have to say to you. I'm Jerry McKee, and this is Prime Time. And we'll be back in just this 1 minute or less, and we will talk to these guys here, and you can call in. We'll have the number up there.
Union's #1 choice for sweets and dinner is Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union. Open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 in the morning, closing at 5:30. Saturdays 9 until noon. 427-5779. Again, the number 427-5779. Baked spaghetti, salad, bread, dessert, and drink, a mere $9. Nathan's all beef hot dog plate, 2 dogs all the way, a bag of chips and drink, $7. Taco salads, baked spaghetti, delicious cakes, cupcakes, cake squares, freshly baked and ready to go. Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union, 427-5779.
All right, we're right back on. If you look at the number 864-441-9382, you can call in and ask any kind of questions you want to ask these guys. And let me put their picture up here. And we have Doug. Doug, just kind of raise your hand up so everybody knows which one we're talking about, because I didn't put your names up underneath even like that. And then we have Michael here. And guys, there's some... You know, we always talk about, I know I was in the Army too, but it was nothing like you guys there, but we always kind of crack on either the Navy or the Marines and jarheads and stuff like that, but we're all in there together and doing great things. Doug, tell us, what made you join the service?
Well, Jerry, you know, I'm born and raised in Union, and when I graduated high school, didn't come from, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. I probably had a plastic one in my mouth. So I joined the National Guard after high school to try to help me get money to go to college. And I loved it. I spent about 4 years there in the National Guard till I transitioned over to the active duty side of it. And I spent 26 years there.
So your motive of going in was money for college.
To serve my country. Yes, sir, and the money for college. Well, I'll kind of throw a ringer
in there for you, Doug. But it does help with the benefits that they had, and unfortunately the pay wasn't there very well, but the benefits was great, and a lot of people get the wrong perception there that you know, especially nowadays. And did they have the draft then?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was like they had to draft back then a little bit. Michael, tell us a little bit about the Navy and why did you decide just to join?
Well, I came from a long line of family members that were in the service. My grandfather was in the Air Force during World War One. My dad and my uncle were in Vietnam, and also Air Force. My uncle, my mom's brother, was in the Navy, and also Vietnam. And he was actually active during that time when I was graduating. And he kind of convinced me to come on over to his side. And so I didn't really have too much to do as a kid. I was kind of getting myself in trouble a lot. Back during that time, I was a hard-headed kid, had a lot of issues, and so I, in essence, kind of like wanted to escape and try to see if I can better myself. And so I ended up joining the Navy.
Well, you know, back then when I was getting around that age and stuff, these guys that got in trouble, the judge gave them an ultimatum. You know, all right, we'll take care of your record here, but you're joining. If you joined the Army, you joined the service, then we'll kind of not see this. If the crime went real bad. So especially if you've been there a couple of times, and so there's been a lot of guys that went that way. And of course, when I was back then, they had to draft, and a lot of people went there. I joined, but the rest of some of my friends and some of the people there, they just kind of went out on that.
Yeah.
You know. Now, you were on the ship. What was the ship? Nicholas?
Yes, sir. The USS Nicholas, FFG 47. I was actually a plank owner when we were going through boot camp in AT. The certain Captain Amaralt came out and convinced us that we were going to be a part of this brand new ship up there in Bath, Maine, and it was going to be commissioned in March of 1984. And so we had about 9 months to wait. And so we went up to Bath, Maine, and got on to the process of being on this brand new ship. And it was pretty interesting because the whole ceremonial thing, you know, being a part of something, really did stick down the road.
So you really got to be on it when it just was launched out.
Yes, sir. We
Wow.
were actually the very first crew on board that ship.
Got to ask you this. Did you ever get seasick?
No, sir. I actually was, to be honest, I was one of 4 guys that never did get sick. And the other 3 were all, they all had their sea legs, you know, and been in the Navy for a while. But for some reason, well, I've always liked the water. You know, I always liked seafood and everything else. And, you know, now, mind you, 90% of my times, especially when we're coming out from Bath, Maine, down through North Carolina, you have that North Carolina coast out there. It's just terrible. And 90% of my time, I was up on deck, up on top, and doing, as long as I was up on deck, I was doing okay. As long as I, you know, and man, I tell you, it was a rough place to be down in the berthing place, you know, because everybody was sick and it just didn't smell very good.
Oh, I bet not. Especially being a new ship. I mean, it's like a new car, and you know, someone get car sick like that.
Yeah.
Doug, where'd you take your basic training at?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Where all the money was at?
Yes, sir. It used to be anyway.
It used to be.
You know, it was coming through high school. At the time I joined, not only was I planning college, but I want to tell you, I needed that discipline. Not that I was a bad kid, never done drugs, never was a big drinker or anything like that, and I needed that to help me. And when I did join, and like I said, I got back from basic training, AIT, I went to my unit. I really enjoyed that, and I did love serving, and like me and Mike were talking earlier, you know, once you become a veteran, and just like you, Jerry, there's a bond there. No matter what service you're in, no matter what branch, there's a bond there.
That's right.
Whether you've met them or not.
Right. Now, tell me, in your basic training, what was the hardest thing that you've done in your basic training?
Probably the gas chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty tough.
That was tough.
Tell me about your experience in the gas chamber, and then we'll come to you, Michael, and let you tell your experience.
You know, they tell us.
Yeah, tell us exactly how they told you to go into it and stuff like that, where people would know.
Yeah, well, they lined us all up outside of this little building, and they told us they were going to let us see what a grenade would do as far as what do they call it? The gas, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we went in. We had on protective masks. We had on gas masks, uniform, everything. When you went in, they tell you to remove your protective mask. You had on a helmet too. You take your helmet, couldn't hit the floor. You remove your protective mask. You put it in its holder, and they tell you they'll start asking you questions to make you talk and breathe. And when you do, and you take that first breath in, and it just like it locks up your lungs.
Yeah.
You know, and you gotta sit there and you gotta answer them. Then you make your way through this little house, you in a group, and then when you get to the end of the line and you can't see, you can't breathe, and they open up the back door and start hollering at you, get out, get out. And when you go out, you have to flap your arms. I can fly, drill sergeant. I can fly. I can see, drill sergeant. I can see. And somebody grabs you then.
Yeah.
Now, what would happen if you'd have dropped that helmet?
I don't know, and I didn't want to find out.
All right.
Yeah.
Did some have to go back through it?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was a,
Well, we had a couple that had to go back through it because they didn't. I mean, it's like they ran.
yeah, that
First
CO2 will get you, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it was mustard gas, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Something along that line.
Well, your experience.
It wasn't too much different. You know, I was in Orlando during boot camp, and a lot of us, I guess, little squids were coming through there, you know, and all. And I just remember it was a once in a lifetime experience. You'll never experience it again, you know, type feeling. And just again, we had to have our mask on and all, and when we took it off, man, instantaneously that thing just bombarded your face.
Now, you were based. Your basic training was in Florida.
Yes, sir, in Orlando.
Okay. Now, being in the Navy, was your basic training any different? Do you think that would? I know it was different because you're on land. I know I've had basic training in Fort Jackson, but did you have any type of water experience that you had to do as far as your basic training, or?
No, sir. In fact, I never did have to do anything when it came down to swimming until we got aboard the ship. And then it was more like swim call. But, you know, I was never in with the SEALs and all these other guys, so we never had to, in essence, train to learn how to swim. I think it was pretty common for most of us to know how to swim. I would hope anyway, you know. I don't think you'd want to join the Navy and not know how to swim, but, you know, maybe there might have been a few people there that were not so lucky, but every one of us knew how to swim.
Well, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
to do. Doug, when you first signed up and you was on, I guess, a bus, they had to give you a bus ticket to go down with.
Yes, sir.
What was your thoughts then? What I know you had to be apprehensive or scared. What because you hear all these things about the drill sergeants and the things you're going to have to go through.
Yeah, when they put us on the bus, me and two of my friends signed together, and when we went down there, you know, we were just talking. Everybody had done told us what it was going to be like, and gave us hints and tips to do, just like the CS grenade. That's what that was, a CS grenade in that gas house. Told us the best way we could do it. And when you get off of that bus, those drill sergeants are in your face from the first time you step off, even through the whole reception station.
Yeah.
You know, and then even to your unit, and then it is it's locked down. You know.
What is one of the things that you remember that your drill sergeant drilled into you, that he some word or something he'd always called you or said to you?
You know, one of the things that I'm thankful for now is he would always tell you to keep your integrity, you know, and work as hard as we can. Give all we got. Don't be a minimum achiever, you know, and that stuck with me. And the Army values that they had,
Right.
you know, that's something that still tends to me today. Leadership, you know, loyalty, duty, honor. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage.
Folks, if you want to ask any questions, you can call 864-441-9382. In just a minute, we're going to go to a commercial here in just a second. And we're going to come back and ask a little bit, Mike, he remember anything from his drill sergeant or anything in basic training, it was one of the key things that you really remember. And but stay tuned. I'm Jerry McKee. We're going to come back in just a moment here. We're going to go to our sponsor, which is Kirby's Cake Shop. And they got the best food there. Of course, you can never bite. They're fresh. Good friends of mine. Just tell them Primetime sent you, Jerry McKee.
Union's #1 choice for sweets and dinner is Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union. Open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 in the morning, closing at 5:30. Saturdays 9 until noon. 427-5779. Again, the number 427-5779. Baked spaghetti, salad, bread, dessert, and drink, a mere $9. Nathan's all-beef hot dog plate, 2 dogs all the way, a bag of chips and drink, $7. Taco salads, baked spaghetti, delicious cakes, cupcakes, cake squares, freshly baked and ready to go. Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union, 427-5779.
All right, you're back with Primetime and Jerry McKee. We got Doug Gilliam and we've got Michael Freyta.
Yes.
That we're talking to and asking about their wonderful experience about their duties in service in their beginning, like at they're old pros now that you can always get some feedback if you decide that you want to go into service. These are the guys you can talk to. You can call us in at 864-441-9382, and we're going back to ask Michael his experience with his drill sergeant. Michael, if you're a drill sergeant, what is one of the things that you remember that really sticks out to you?
Well, my drill sergeant was a senior chief, and he was from the Philippines. And this guy was a little small firecracker. And this guy was always continually in our face, from sun up to sundown, and he just did not stop. He brought the fear of God into us. And, there's one thing, and I guess I can back up just a little bit. I was not your typical kid. Man, I had a hard life, and I was a hard-headed kid. I had a big mouth, and I usually got myself in trouble. And unfortunately, because of this, senior chief often had me doing push-ups and all this other stuff, But I made it through, which was pretty impressive because, I can't remember how many kids were there on that day, There might have been maybe 70 or 80 kids, within that barracks. And out of that, we had about 20 guys that ended up leaving for one purpose or another, But they wanted to see who was going to crack and who was going to, stay the guild, and I pressed through. I was pretty amazed because as a kid, the only thing that I ever did right was I learned how to run. Me and Forrest Gump had a lot in common back then. And I was able to run miles and walkathons and stuff like this, during my time in school. And so the Navy kind of gave me that tenacity,
Right.
to be able to endure things. And that's the one thing that I guess that I still have today is that ability to stay rock solid through any kind of problem that we may face, understanding that there's something good on the other side. And it builds a character in us that is solid in integrity and all these other good values.
Now, when you signed the dotted line, and I'm assuming you took the bus too?
Yes, sir. Now, like him, I was supposed to have a buddy, and I ain't gonna say his name, but I'm hoping that he sees me today because we're good friends again on Facebook. But he left me. He left me high and dry, and we're supposed to go in on this buddy thing, and man, he left me high and dry. And so I was by myself going down to Fort Jackson, and man, it was a really hard thing for me to do because I'd never been alone. I'd never had to make a decision to where it was my decision, and this was, the road that I was going to travel, and it was going to be by myself. And he ended up enlisting in with the Air Force. Like a year later,
I guess the guilt got to him, didn't it? Now, Doug, how did you present this to your parents that you wanted to do this? Were they all for it, or did you do it and then surprise them?
No, sir. My mom was not for it, but my dad was okay with it. And when I turned 18 and graduated high school, and that was my plan. And me and my buddies, that's what we were going to do. And I knew some people that were already there at the National Guard here in Union and Jonesville, and they had talked to me because one of them was one of my buddies' daddies. So, but that's how it went about, and I know I needed to do that, and I'm glad I did. Don't get me wrong, it was tough, but like you said, you just got to push through it. And work as hard as you can.
Michael, same question. What, did your parents encourage, or you just did it on your own, spring it on them?
I came from a broken family. My mom wasn't with me at the time, and I was here with my dad in South Carolina. And my dad, probably didn't want me to go because he had his own painting business, and me and painting just never did. Even though I was a painter for 25 years, I really didn't want to do it. But it was kind of funny because when we were in the ship, the first thing that we started doing was painting the sides, painting the sides of the ship, and it's like, what is this, I couldn't get away from it. But, my dad encouraged me. But, I don't think it was something that he would, really want me to be, especially in the Navy. If I would have gone to the Air Force, to be like him and like my grandfather, I think I might have done something a little bit better with my life. But, it was just, I guess, my decision.
Okay. Doug, what is, when you finish basic training, and how was that day to you when you finally got over that part there? And what was your MO?
My MOS, initially, I started out as a wheel vehicle mechanic. And then after I finished that and got back home, I transitioned to an 11 Bravo infantryman, where I served out all of my time. But as that, I just walked across the street from basic training to AIT, and it was the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
So the training was there just kept on going, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
And what about you, Michael?
The reason why I wanted to get in was to get into radio broadcasting, and that was my guaranteed A school that I was supposed to be going to. But then the commander was trying to convince us to get aboard the ship with USS Nicholas, and he told me that as soon as I would go through AIT, that we would come aboard the ship, and then within the next 6 months or so, I'd be able to go to A school. That never happened.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, I stayed as a seaman the entire time that I was on board, and tying knots and painting the ship.
Yeah, that's my nephew was retired from the Navy, and he's in the medical field, and he changed his MO to I forgot what he was doing. He's on a submarine, and so he was on there a while, so he changed that, and now he's something in the medical field way up there. So he did a good job of changing over. He doesn't work that much, I tell him, but he now. But Doug, what was your first deployment, and where?
It was like I told you, when I first come back to my unit, shortly being in a infantry line unit, and I liked what they done, and that's when they said, "Hey, go change your MOS," and I did, and became a infantryman, and when that went through, I enjoyed that, Mike, and stayed in an infantry battalion. I mean, a battalion and a brigade command sergeant major in an infantry brigade. Our first deployment, other than training deployments, the first combat deployment was in Afghanistan on OEF, and that was in 2007, 2008.
Okay. I'll get back to you in a minute just to ask you more about the people there, not the Americans, but the Afghanistans and things. Michael, what was your first deployment, or they told you that you was going out to sea, or?
Well, we got commissioned in March of '84, and for the next 2 years we were just doing sea trials, and I'd never really had a chance to get into a deployment agency or opportunity, because we were just always trying to get that ship, up to standards. And so I went to Gitmo a couple of times now in Guantanamo Bay.
Okay.
But, during that time of year, in the 80s, there was not much going on.
Did you get to, was there some big guns on that ship?
Oh, yeah. They had some 50 cals and some, they had this brand new thing called the Sea Whiz, which was kind of like a Gatling gun. They had two, I'm not sure what they were. Man, this thing was deadly. It would shoot out missiles. It was like an air-to-air defense mechanism, and it was just incredible.
What, did you get to shoot any of those?
No.
No?
Again, I was a deck seaman.
Oh, okay.
All I did was look, unfortunately. I didn't get to do much. It was kind of sad. During my whole time, I kind of messed myself up a little bit, because I couldn't get over the fact that, the captain that kind of lied to me, and that's one thing that, we were all told going into the whole thing, that, the military is going to lie and say a bunch of stuff and cause you to do things that, you don't want to do, and it all came to pass, unfortunately, and I didn't really get to see or experience a whole lot of things that, a lot of my other friends did.
Right. Now, I know I read a little bit about the ship there also, patrolling out into the ocean there. It was and it still is, a lot of piracy going on there.
Yeah.
And
I think that was in with the first Gulf War in '92. My brother was actually out there during that time. He was in the Army, and I actually had a friend of mine that was in the on the Nicholas during that time. If I'm not mistaken, they were off the coast of Bahrain area in the Red Sea, or I'm not sure exactly where it was. But anyway, they had, what was it? I'm not too familiar with all these places around there. But anyway, they had caught 21 people and held them captive and brought them aboard the USS Nicholas. And that was like the first hostile incident that they had had. And it was really quite interesting because these guys were kind of going after them to try and sink the ship. And they sunk the ship, you know, and then brought all these guys captive, brought them into the ship and held them as POWs, you know, for a number of days.
Okay. All right. Well, you are listening to Michael Freyta, and also you're listening to Doug Gilliam, and we're going to come back and ask Doug a little bit about the people themselves. Sometimes, you know, innocent people that we go overseas in a lot of the wars and things that we go to, that we unfortunately we talk about the enemies, but there's a lot of innocent people there too. So we'll be back right after these messages. I'm Jeremy McKee with Prime.
Union's #1 choice for sweets and dinner is Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union. Open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 in the morning, closing at 5:30. Saturdays 9 until noon. 427-5779. Again, the number 427-5779. Baked spaghetti, salad, bread, dessert, and drink, a mere $9. Nathan's all-beef hot dog plate, 2 dogs all the way, a bag of chips and drink, $7. Taco salads, baked spaghetti, delicious cakes, cupcakes, cake squares, freshly baked and ready to go. Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union, 427-5779.
All right, we back, and we're talking to Doug Gilliam and Michael Freyta, and tell us about their experience in service. And if you have a question, call us at 864-441-9382, and they answer your question. That's good too. Now Doug, I want to ask you. You got deployed to Afghanistan. Did you get to meet any of the local people there?
Oh yeah, we did. The little village where our FOB, our forward operating base, was in our battle space. We had 7 of them, and we, you know, I had a 16-man embedded training team that we trained and took care of the Afghan National Army, the ANA, and mentored them, fought with them, and but you did get to meet the villagers, you know, because they was interested in, you know, and you had to be very careful though. And the people that come there are taught with us. We had our medic, was a little E4, done a great job, just come out of basic training AIT, got put on a senior embedded training team. And most of the villagers, even though they had a place to go to, clinic, they would come to our gate and knock on the gate and want to see our little medic when someone happened to them, and he would take care of them. But they were very nice. They would bring us fruit that they had grown, you know, and drop it off for us. Honeydew melons, that kind of stuff from the local villagers.
Wow.
I will tell you, the majority of the common villagers, they really wanted us there, Jerry.
No.
And, you know, and it was good. Now, they had bad actors there, you know, the Taliban, and most of the people that I had dealings with hated the Taliban. And they were glad we were there because they had some kind of protection
Right.
to do that. And boy, the stories that you could hear of those things. It is, and they hated them.
Right.
And even the National Army, the ANA, the Afghan National Army, they hated them, and they would fight. They would fight with them once they learned how to fight.
Right.
You know, it was they didn't like them either. But the villagers and the people there themselves, because we'd go in our Humvees going down, throw out candy, or something like that, and they loved that. Just to have something from the Americans. And they'd want pencil or pen. They'd say pen, and they'd pat their pocket. That's where we kept our pens at in our,
Is this a pen?
just a pen, just to be able to write. And most of them were females. They didn't get to go to school. They didn't allow them where our operating base was. So, but they all appreciated us being there, and it seemed to be that way anyway.
How was the fruit?
Fruit was delicious.
It was freshly grown like that
Absolutely.
and out there. Now, did you try besides the fruits, did you try any of the local cuisine there?
Oh, yeah. Jerry, when we first got there, we flew into Kandahar. We had to wait about a week to the team that we were replacing come down, and we got all the vehicles, and changed out everything and went back up to our battle space. We had a small headquarters fob in Kalat, Afghanistan. It was called Fob Apache. And that's where our headquarters was set up, but we had those forward operating bases that we had to help too. The first 2 weeks we got to our forward fob in Zabul province, we had some Romanians there, a platoon of Romanians that guarded the gates for us. And they'd done all the cooking. All they had was one big round black cast iron pot. They cooked everything in it. We had no running water. We barely had electricity sometimes, and everybody got dysentery on my team. So we went on an MRE lunch. The ANA had about 800 meters from us, from our fob. They had their fob they set at, and they invited us to lunch one time, and their rice, first time I really got to eat goat.
Yeah.
But their rice was awesome. Their goat was awesome. And when they'd ask us, to come over and eat, we always took advantage of that, so we didn't have to eat MREs until we got some running water there, where they could wash their pots and cook.
Wow. Mike, were you going to ask a question, or?
I was just going to ask, is that the same year that you guys were teaching and training the Afghan Army?
Yeah, so that is what our embedded training team, we were to teach, coach, and mentor. But the main thing was to fight, help them see how to fight.
I kind of remember that.
Yes, our second day into country when we got to our headquarters fob, the Taliban wanted to play. And so it was really from the initial start. We were in a bad area, and the Taliban was no good. And they'd done a lot to hurt their own people, But it was, that was not a good place. And that's what we had to do, because when they come out, they had Ford Ranger pickup trucks is what they moved in. And we had Humvees. And then whenever we would take contact, they would just start going and just spraying. Wouldn't aim a bit, you know what I mean? They just start spraying bullets and waste up all their ammo. So that's one of the things we mentored them on. And
Where did they get the Ford trucks?
from U.S.
That's crazy.
Right.
Sand colored.
Some guy come over here and said, "Hey, we want 20 of those Ford trucks." No, we don't know Hummers. We want the Ford trucks.
Well, I don't think they were offered the Hummers when we got there, because we didn't. Some of ours were not all up armored initially. They had a lot that was not up armored. When you're an IED, if you don't have up armor, you don't have a good ending.
Yeah.
Right. Michael, on the ship,
Yes, sir.
how was the food?
Great. We had some really good cooks.
Well, that's good.
Again, being a brand new ship, all the delicacies were there. You know, we had some really good food. It was just the first 4 weeks or so, it was kind of rough because a lot of us had to get our sea legs, but they got, you know, and again, and I'm from a big family, so, you know, I kind of understand that we have to share and share, you know, do all the cooking and cleaning and stuff, you know, but one of the things I guess I really, even today, you know, I'm a pastor at a church. I love getting together with friends and eating a meal.
Breaking bread.
And breaking bread, you know, and that's one thing that I learned how to do. Because here we are in this little ship, you know. I think we might have had 240 people on that ship, and for, you know, the first 6 months we were out there doing sea trials, and we didn't have anywhere else to go, you know. We're out there 50 miles from land, and you know, what are we going to do?
Well, your sleeping quarters.
Yeah,
Well, tell me about your sleeping quarters in it.
very tight.
Because I'm thinking cruise ship.
No, you really have maybe a 18-inch wide hallway, and then you got 3 bunks on each side, and the bunks have curtains and everything, and you got a little kind of like a stowaway thing. You put your personal stuff underneath, but there's nothing there. You know?
Wow. So you really couldn't pack very, very little.
Yeah, you didn't have a whole lot of personal stuff with you.
Now, how many bunks were in one room?
Well, there was a forward, mid, and aft, and each one probably held about 75 per berthing compartment. So, and you know, now down below is where we were, and then up above you had the officers' quarters. Now they were nice. These guys had it made. But down below, man, we were like a bunch of sardines.
And no one snored.
Well, I wouldn't know, because when I hit the rack, I was gone.
Well, how many hours a day did you work?
About 14 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah, 14 hours. Well, again, I was one of these guys that was kind of, you know, volunteering, because I didn't like going down to the mess hall or the bunk, you know. It just, you know, until I can kind of, I guess, get used to the smell, you know. It just, you know, I would rather stay up and, you know, do my watch, you know.
Wow. I bet so, especially
Yeah.
what you say it was like. What about the sleeping quarters, Doug? I'm picturing just tents, or is it?
In Afghanistan, my last deployment to Kosovo was a little bit better, but in Afghanistan, they had this small area that had a block wall. It used to be a female school that they had done stopped the school for the females, and they had a little wooden building about as big as your area right here. That's where we put most of our team members, because we had 7 fobs we were covering, and some of those were staying at their fobs. And I stayed in a 16-foot Connex box, me and my team chief. I was a senior NCO, he was the team chief, and we stayed in a 16-foot Connex box. And cold in the winter and hot. I was at 6,400 foot elevation.
Oh my
in the
gosh.
mountains. A lot of snow in the winter, very cold temperatures. But it was that's where we lived at.
Well, you know, as people think that you're talking about Afghanistan, like you talk about, well, they think that's warm weather year round.
No, sir.
So, what was the coldest night that you can remember?
That I can remember, I think I was the first one up every morning, and I would make sure our Humvees crank and run, because we had to leave our Blue Force trackers on 24 hours a day to let them know where we're at. And but I think the coldest I seen was 4 degrees. Most of the time it was between 12 and 10, maybe somewhere right in there. But 4 feet of snow, you get back from, you know, patrolling and going out, and your boots, even though we had on extreme cold weather boots, covered in ice.
Whoa.
You go into that little Connex box, take them off, and you try to get a little bit of sleep, and then you have to put them blocks of ice back on your feet in the morning. It was not good.
Yeah.
But it's memories.
That's, yeah. People just don't realize what it's not a recreational time to go where you got the beaches and so on. They say, well, you see some of the pictures now and they're saying, well, man, it looks pretty good there. Well, we'll be back in just another minute. We're going to have another commercial right here. We ran our third and last commercial, and we want to thank you guys for all that you do and continue doing, and appreciate you coming on here and kind of tell us a little bit about your experiences. I know sometimes that's hard to think about, and makes you be proud to be American too. And so I'm sure McKee, and we'll be back right after these messages, and it will start this time.
Union's #1 choice for sweets and dinner is Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union. Open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 in the morning, closing at 5:30. Saturdays 9 until noon. 427-5779. Again, the number 427-5779. Baked spaghetti, salad, bread, dessert, and drink, a mere $9. Nathan's all beef hot dog plate, 2 dogs all the way, a bag of chips and drink, $7. Taco salads, baked spaghetti, delicious cakes, cupcakes, cake squares, freshly baked and ready to go. Kirby's Cake Shop, 1222 Duncan Bypass, Union, 427-5779.
Okay, we're back. It was a short commercial. We're back with Doug Gilliam and Michael Freyta, and tell us about their experience. And we're going to ask Mike here a little bit recreation on the ship, because you're out there in that sea for a good long time. So we want to find out, what did y'all do for recreation?
Played cards.
That was it? I mean, I pictured it, you're playing basketball or something other out there, or something, because you're out there a long time.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm not good at playing cards. I get bored easy, and that would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Being out there.
We had movie night once a week, and I think it was on Fridays. We had one thing that we did have that was really interesting. We had this main event night, because many of us like boxing and wrestling and stuff, So we had this main event, and we had three of the strongest guys, and one of them was my best friend, and he still is a good friend of mine, and his name is Robert Fitzgerald Zollicoffer, and just a big black guy. Right. This man is massive, 18 years old and just full of spunk, and he always talked like Rocky Balboa type thing, And one of the radiomen, first class radiomen, his name was Sarpy, and this guy was a Samoan. And man, these guys just went at it for like 15 minutes, and it was good, wholesome fun, because it was just something different, to kind of pass the time.
Was y'all making bets?
Oh yeah, well, unfortunately, my friend didn't last too long after the 15-minute round. Sarpy ended up getting the best of them, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, what type of movies did they have on there? Because did they have a lot of movies? Because you're out there a good while. I mean,
well, 6 months, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's they had a lot of the, I guess the top box office movies that were going on in the States were, also being shown maybe a week or so later, I'm not sure how they got the movies on board the ship, but they obviously had a supply that they kind of kept around,
Okay. Now, how did you get letters? Because you're out there 6 months somewhere on the ocean. Mail, news from home, news from around the world. I mean, how did you?
Well, we didn't get any mail, and again, we were off the coast of Cuba, so there wasn't much chance of getting any mail there. If we came in to Guantanamo Bay, the mail would be at Guantanamo Bay. But if we were on the ocean, we were on the ocean. There was no way of. I guess there could have been a helicopter, coming in, but they didn't come in. But for everything was always, we were learning how to do these things. It wasn't like that we were already learning how to, and knowing what to do.
Right.
We were all in training.
So did the ship dock where you could go to Guantanamo Bay, or?
Yeah, we would dock every 6 to 8 weeks. We would dock for a few days, get more supplies, and then go back out again.
Okay. Did you get off the ship then?
There's no reason to. There's nothing in Guantanamo Bay.
Okay. Well, Doug, what kind of recreations did y'all have to do? Did you get to, like, I know we've seen movies and stuff where the soldiers go into town and, and all this stuff here, and probably where you was at, you probably couldn't go into town.
No, Jerry. We what we had to do when we were at our outer fobs, we had moved, somebody before us had moved a few weights in there in a treadmill. You couldn't go running down the road,
Right.
And we could only do that very limited time. And when we went back, about every 7 to 10 days, we went back to Fob Apache, where KBR had a little tent set up as a dining facility for us, And but most of the time, we would stay in about 2 days, maybe 3 days at the most, do all our maintenance, body maintenance, wash yourself, wash your clothes. The first thing we done was take care of our weapons and our vehicles. As soon as we rolled in, we got weapons off, went to the cleaning station, cleaned all of our weapons, checked all of our vehicle, do the PMCS on it. Then we would go in and take care of ourselves, wash our body and our clothes, and get prepared to go back out and get all the updates.
Now, you was talking about it wasn't much flowing water like we have here like that. So how many days have you personally gone without showering? Or
I'll tell you, the record for my team was 30 days. And then they got just a 5-gallon Lister bag, and we poured water in, and that's the way we would do it a lot until we got smart and paid a local to dig us a well. And we asked our headquarters out of Kandahar to send us a generator where we could have lights and run that, and they did. When we put up a shower head, a little latrine like so. That was in a shower, and that was that was the last 4 or 5 months we were in country when then all that got done.
Well, didn't they have any like rivers or anything there, creeks or that?
They had a few we call, not like the rivers that we see, but they were big creeks or flowing water, but not very many because they would have to trench it out for their gardens. They'd have to hand dig trenches just to get water to their gardens unless it come from the mountains. It didn't rain a lot, but the snow helped them, get water, and unless they had a well.
Did they have a way to preserve the water from like all the snow they had?
This is the way we get done. We bought a 500-gallon plastic tank, put on top of the Connex or the building we had, and we had a farmer that had probably a 250-gallon tank, and he would pump it up into that for us, and he'd go make a couple of trips, and that's how we done it. We'd have to buy the water until we got that well going.
So really, you didn't don't seem like have anyway much recreation at all. And again, like I asked Michael here, what about your mail? Was probably no TV or anything like that.
When we first got there, like I say, we didn't have electricity hardly. We had one very small generator that would power some, and it'd run a quarter of the time. So we asked for another one. They brought us a bigger one where we could light up that little school building that they had where most of our team slept. We got, the Army has a VSAT. It's a satellite dish that you can set up and it connect it, and it'll get you internet for your mail,
Okay.
and messages, things like that. And we did get that about 2 months, 2.5 months, maybe a little longer before we left the country. They gave us one of those VSATs that we set up. But as far as any recreation, like I say, we couldn't go out the wire unless you make a movement, on a patrol or leave
Right.
out in a convoy.
Well, how did the fuel for your Hummees and stuff like that? I mean, did they bring in the fuel there from the helicopter maybe or ship or?
We had I think it was a 600-gallon tank on our forward fob where I stayed most of the time, not at Apache, not at our headquarters. And they would have locals truck fuel from Kandahar up and pump it in our tank.
Oh, okay.
And they'd have to pump it over that block wall because we wouldn't let them inside. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, for safety and security.
Like that. So they had to have, wow, yeah. So, this is very interesting because, into perspective, that it makes you appreciate what you have now.
Wow.
Just as much as a peanut butter sandwich, or something like that would taste so great right then. And so when you got out, Michael, how did you feel getting out? Did you ecstatic, or did you get out and have to be accoladed back into civilian?
Well, this is the part I don't really like to talk much about because, again, I was a mean kid. I just me and the XO and the captain never did get along, and I was unfortunately had to leave after 2 years with the general discharge. At the time, I was even married to a woman who was almost twice my age, and we ended up divorced within the next 90 days, and my life just went to pot.
Yeah.
And I was in the drugs and alcohol pretty bad, and it really did. It took an act of God to grab a hold of me and to get me out of my mess that I found myself in. And if I could just 30 years later, I got out in '85. 30 years later, they're giving me a chance to celebrate the decommissioning of the ship. And the Lord touched upon my heart to go. And it's like, why are they wanting me? Because I was like the first one of the guys to get booted off the ship, and it wasn't on very good terms. So when I went back to Norfolk, I met my commanding officer, who is now a retired vice admiral, and I bowed my head and I said, "Sir, you may not remember me, but my name is Michael Freyta, and I'm here to apologize for my conduct." And the guy just dropped, his mouth just dropped. He says, "I remember you." He says, and, in my 43 years of service, I've never had anyone come up to apologize. He says, "It must have taken you a lot of nerve to come up here and talk with me." I said, "Sir, well, as you can see, I'm now transformed. I'm not the young man that I used to be, and, I want to be honorable and doing the right thing. And that's why I have my hat, is because he gave me my hat.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he told me that I was welcome back."
Right. Well, that's great because you've turned out a great guy. You're a pastor of a church, and you help a lot of people all the homeless, because I know you personally.
Yeah.
You help a lot of people there in Gaffney and all the activities there that you do. And you're a real awesome guy, and I'm privileged to know you. We worked on some projects together, and
Yes, sir.
and just a good guy. Once I've ever heard speak good of you.
Yeah.
Doug, when you retired, of course, you never retired from government, though, because you're the House of Representative from District 42.
Yes, sir. I retired in June the 30th of 2015, and August I was hired at Union High School as a senior Army instructor for the JRTC program, and Lord laid on my heart to run for the House of Representatives, and He blessed our efforts. In 2018, I took oath. 2019, January 2019. So been busy ever since.
Oh yeah, I know you're a busy man. You are that, and we appreciate both of your service like that, and thank both of you for coming on. And we're going to be ending our show here. And like I said, great information. We learned a lot of good things. Anybody can talk about military stuff and talk about the little things here, but when you talk from your heart and experience it, it's different. It's different.
Absolutely.
And Memorial Days today, and it's more, as you know, more than just people taking a day off. It's deeper than that. It's the freedom that we have right now, just like we're having this podcast.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm Jerry McKee, and thank everyone for watching, and make your comments, and if you have any questions, send me an email, send me a message, and we'll get these guys here. Thank you both for being with us, and thank you out there for being with us. Y'all have a good night.